Hello, it is April 2nd, 2025, and I just wrapped up The War in the Air by H.G. Wells. And this is a book, basically, it was written in 1907, preceded World War I. And the brief one third of the book build up to the conflict that occurred in this book is probably the most interesting part of it. The second and third pieces of the book are actual conflict in fiction. And a lot of people say that H.G. Wells was psychic or that he could read the future. I think he theorized based on what was going on at the time, a future that could happen because the war, the way this played out, did not actually happen. It was Germany using blimps to bomb New York and our fleets in the Pacific and things of that sort. So that was not accurate. But the principle of aerial bombing is definitely true and turned out to be similar to what he wrote in this book. So the most value you're going to get probably is the first third, which kind of stated the atmosphere at the time of the world and how things were going. So there was some interesting things I did not know. This was the first conspiracy that I learned of in a classic book, and it was where'd all the inventors go? So in this book, it theorized that the Wright brothers disappeared after their flying at Kitty Hawk because there was a like an arms race in essence between all of the governments and who was going to harness air power first. And it claimed that a lot of inventors go missing after they create things. And I Googled that, went down the rabbit hole, and it turns out there's a lot of truth to that. So Nikola Tesla, a lot of people think he was possibly murdered in I think it was a hotel room in New York. He had been creating all kinds of sci-fi type of inventions slash experiments. Shut up, bird. And he's not the only one. So there's been all kinds of different industries where people have created something and they've either disappeared or been exiled or things of that nature, and their inventions taken over by someone else. So that conspiracy was in this book. The other part about this that was interesting was the initial buildup to aero flight. And the reason that it paused for a while was because of the massive costs affiliated with maintenance and the filming. I guess the type of film they used was highly expensive. And the people that showed up to record these flights basically were getting overexpended and decided not to do it anymore. So there was a temporary disinterest in air flight. And then the people started asking a while later, like, well, whatever happened to the promise of air flight? And it was interesting because back then people thought, oh, we're all going to have mass transportation so we can avoid traveling on the roads. And it's interesting how the governments of the world put the clamps on all of that because we don't have access to personal flying vehicles like a lot of people back then thought we would have. It was like the FAA and all these entities control commercial flight, and you basically ride along in their massive plane or you don't go at all. And there was a lot of fear from governments. Basically, it was like a space race type of thing, or an arms race. Who will get this first? Whoever gets this is going to become the world dominant power. And the status of the world at the time was sitting on a volcano, is the way they described it. And I'm going to read you something from page 43 that kind of set the stage for World War I. And I double checked this to make sure that it's historically accurate, and it is. So it says, they began to behave like ill-bred people in a crowded public car, to squeeze against one another, elbow, thrust, dispute, and quarrel, vain to point out to them that they had only to rearrange themselves to be comfortable. Everywhere, all over the world, the historian of the early 20th century finds the same thing. The flow and rearrangement of human affairs inextricably entangled by the old areas, the old prejudices, and a sort of heated, irascible stupidity. Sure got that now. And everywhere congested nations and inconvenient areas showing population and produce, or slopping population and produce into each other, annoying each other with tariffs and every possible commercial vexation, threatening each other with navies and armies that grew every year more portentous. Is that not what we're doing today? It's April 2nd, and this is the supposed liberation day from the moron in charge who thinks that taxing your allies and putting tariffs on all of your allies is going to work out. Well, according to world history, it doesn't work out. You don't isolate yourself and separate yourself from all your allies. And I'm going to give you an example. My entire life, who would have thought that Japan, after World War II, who became one of our closest allies, South Korea, one of our closest allies, because we're defending them from the northern dictatorship / communist threat, would even think to ally against us. It's happening right now. South Korea and Japan have allied with China for their trade because the numbnut in charge is threatening our allies with tariffs. So they're unifying against us. Now, whether he's doing this on purpose on behalf of someone else or he's just an idiot, I don't know. But according to world history, look it up. Tariffs preceded World War I. The tariff war preceded World War I. I'm going to read you another excerpt if I could find the right place here. Comes up again. And then at last it came as a surprise to all the world because its real causes were hidden. Relations were strained between Germany and the United States because of the intense exasperation of a tariff conflict and the ambiguous attitude of the former power towards the Monroe Doctrine. They were strained between the United States and Japan because of the perennial citizenship question. But in both cases, these were standing causes of offense. So he's basically acting like if you are not one of his preferred group, you don't matter anymore. And he's isolating non-whites, and he's also isolating our historic allies and tariffing, according to him, all countries as of a couple of days ago. This isn't going to work out for us. You cannot stand alone. We're not that powerful. As you know, Reagan shipped out all of the industry to foreign countries, and now we're stuck with it. So the Republicans that enjoyed the financial success of the 80s because we were able to get cheap product and do well profit-wise because goods were inexpensive, we're now paying the price for it. People that think Reagan was the best thing since sliced bread, explain to me now why Trump's philosophy is we've got to get industry back into the United States, the industry that Reagan got rid of. And the only way to get it back is to tariff all of our allies who are creating goods on their sector so that somebody will come back here and build plants that we don't have anymore. So we have no economic power in ourselves because we have no plants and no factories, but yet somehow we can tariff everybody else into submission when they already have factories and they can make allies with other countries rather than us. So we'll be standing alone because of this idiot. And the fact is, it talks about the stupidity of the people. You're supporting a guy that's putting us on a little island by ourselves and telling everybody else kiss our butt because we're so much better than you somehow. But they have all of the production facilities. So yeah, let's tariff everybody into the point where they hate us, and then you get the reward, the war in the air. Well, maybe it didn't play out exactly like it did in this book, but if you read some history, and don't just accept what comes out of the orange moron's mouth, you'll see that what he's doing doesn't make any sense. And he's irritating everyone to the point of that. It won't be blimps. Something else, but the principles are the same. Happy Independence Day, or whatever he's calling it.